Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is the United Show. This is Devil's Advocate. I'm your host, Keane. It's been a long time since we've done a show. We had a bit of a break over the World Cup. And look, there's been a lot of stories about United during the World Cup, and all of our Reds were performing as well. So that's absolutely great to see. Great panel here, guests today for our return for a preview show. Have Jay and Callum from the Stretford Paddock, and also my co-host, Mr. Marc Biggs, as well, here to join us. Jay, how's it going? You've been doing a lot of shows over the World Cup. You didn't have a break. How's life been?
Well, I'm just glad we could get back to proper football now. You know what I mean? Like, forget about all this nonsense about World Cups and Messi and Mbappe. Do you know what I mean? I'm looking forward to seeing, Jay Rodriguez, Burnley, Carabao Cup. That's where it's at. Do you know what I mean? That's football heritage.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you can't beat a good old English domestic cup tie. Even right before Christmas as well, a bit of Five Cantonas as well. We'll get that in at some point tomorrow night. Callum, how's life, pal? You're back doing the blogs. You're a busy man yourself. You're on Paddock with Jay as well. How's the break been for you?
Yeah, all right. I mean, like Jay said, I'm glad United are back. Right again, just trying to keep myself busy because there's not really been anything worthwhile watching for the past month, has there? So, it's good to be back doing shows on United anyway. Always good to see your face, Keane, anyway. So,
yeah, it's rare. Thanks, you see
Cal.
me sober, Callum. So it's absolutely great to see.
Yeah,
Marc, we've been talking about doing shows all World Cup, and we're saying, geez, we can't wait for United. And we were saying, like, it's getting to a point where we're getting sick of the World Cup, and England got knocked out. So, you were definitely waiting for United to come back then. How was your fix of not getting United been?
I'm not sure we had that same conversation, to be honest with you, buddy. I've quite enjoyed the break, but here we are, looking forward to obviously United playing again, which is obviously great. And I'm sure you were as disappointed as us as when England got knocked out, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I had England in the sweepstakes in work, so I had two horses in the race. In one sweepstake, I had Senegal, and the other one I had England. So when it was the last 16, I didn't lose that day. But look, we move. Luckily, Man United are back this week. We're playing against Burnley in the Carabao Cup. Obviously, it's a chance for Ten Hag to win his first trophy at United. Jay, obviously, look, we've had the two, I suppose you can nearly call them mid-pre-season games against Cadiz and Real Betis. And look, we've seen the likes of Garnacho and that play. There's been talk in the last kind of couple of days that Alejandro Garnacho could potentially, sign a new deal at United, but there's other clubs coming in sniffing around, such as Chelsea and other clubs in Europe. First of all, what have you made of kind of Garnacho's rise in these kind of, I suppose, first 6 months of Ten Hag's tenure? And how concerned would you be that other clubs are sniffing around at the minute, considering there's about 6 months left on the deal?
I've been very impressed with his rise. I think he's not all been plain sailing. I think if you remember, sort of pre-season, it was like the worst kept secret in football that he was late for team meetings and that Erik Ten Hag punished him for that. I mean, we was over on pre-season in Thailand and in Australia, and there was one time when everyone was literally on the bus. The players were all on the bus, and the bus didn't move. And then you saw Garnacho come running out of the hotel, getting on the bus like 10 minutes after everyone else. And, it was obvious that he was having a bit of an issue with timekeeping. And Erik Ten Hag isn't the sort of manager where you can get away with that. Whether you're a youngster or whether you're an established pro, he's not going to have it. So I think that he had to sort of get to grips with the manager and how the manager expected him to act. And he's maybe had to wait a little bit longer than he would have waited. No, not much longer. It's not like he had to wait a very long time, but some people were saying he should have started a lot earlier than he did as a first team option. However, when he has come in recently, you've seen he's been phenomenal. I mean, the game against Fulham where he got that late goal was just the icing on the cake. We've seen it already as well. Was it Villa? I think was it at Old Trafford, where he was on fire as well. And he's the sort of player that just gets the crowd excited. I am wary of the fact his contract hasn't got long left on it. especially when you hear that other clubs are sniffing around him. You do want to see him get tied down to a long-term deal. I just think we have to be careful with this because you've got to get the balance right. We've been here before, and people may laugh, but Adnan Januzaj burst onto the scene in a similar fashion, scored those 2 goals against Sunderland away, and everyone was raving about him. And it's like, this kid has got everything. He's going to, I remember Kika Makeda was the same. Came in, scored 2 goals in these first 2 games. It was raving about him. Now I think Garnacho's better than those 2 players. My point is, you don't just want to throw massive amounts of money at him in long-term contracts. You have to be reasonable about it. He's still quite an unproven player. So I do want to see him tied down, but I think sometimes it can be counterproductive if you give a youngster a huge contract as his first big contract, as his first long-term contract, because then all of a sudden he thinks, well, I've made it now, I'm here, you know what I mean? And then if it doesn't work out, you've got this almost this burden of a big contract hanging over your head. So yeah, I think the club should just try and be a little bit more savvy around it. Get him signed, get him on a longer-term deal, but don't he's got to earn the right to earn the big bucks, if that makes sense. Because so far, we've seen a handful of games, he's done very well, but it hasn't all been smooth for him. He's still got a little bit to learn, and I hope he can learn at Manchester United, because I think he's a great option for us. I really do.
And Callum, like Jay spoke about there, like almost Man United kind of have to go through kind of a nurturing period kind of with Garnacho now, even though like, look, he has kind of burst onto the scene kind of similar to a Makeda or Januzaj or even Welbeck to an extent when he came through, and he was doing very well as a young player as well. Do you think like we have that right manager in Eric Ten Hag to kind of, I suppose, nurture Garnacho, but also keep him grounded, considering like he has a very big reputation in Ajax for building young players, such as Julian Timber and Ryan Gravenberch?
Well, yeah, he's obviously done it in the past, and to be fair, with the way he's sort of acted at United, he's dealt with so many different issues really well. So, obviously we saw at the start of the season, just before the season, like Jay said, Garnacho wasn't great with his timekeeping. There was maybe a couple of problems with his attitude, I guess. I know Bruno said that in one of his interviews. So it seems to have got better for him, and I think Ten Hag's probably dealt with another issue like that really well. The problem with the big contracts that seems to come in, and it's obviously been an issue at United for probably about a decade now, but we've got to be really careful with how we deal with it. I don't know how really it works. Obviously, I'm just a fan speaking outside of how contracts work, I guess. But if there was some kind of performance-based incentive for him to just keep the youngster sort of grounded, because you don't want to see just a load of money thrown at him and sort of lose his head a bit and his attitude to go the wrong way. You want to see him obviously develop at Man United, and the fact that so much has come out about him possibly moving on to other clubs or anything, United have really got to show intent now to say this is the club that you should be at, and we want to be back on the right track and winning trophies very soon. We want you to be a part of that. Obviously, Ten Hag's done it in the past, and it'd be nice if you could do it at United. And with so much news coming out, with the ownership, obviously, I think a lot of fans are quite optimistic that the future could be a lot brighter than it has been in the last 5 or 6 years or so. So it'd be nice for the best and most talented players at the club, like your Garnachos and your Rashfords and Delos, to sign these contracts as soon as possible and get them tied down, because you want to see them be part of the next big thing at Man United, and Garnacho's no different to that. So it'd be nice if we could just put these sort of things to bed as soon as possible, and whether it's performance based or just I don't really know how it works personally, but it'd be nice if they could just keep him humbled and just not and basically learn from mistakes of the past with new contracts, and hopefully Garnacho can keep his head grounded and develop at Man United, and it could be part of something big.
Yeah, and I agree with that, especially if you look at the past decade, and players have come in on really big deals, and unfortunately they've underperformed, and because they've come in with such big deals, there's no incentive for them to improve. You look at players like Pogba given big contracts. Rashford, even when he done his most recent extension, didn't he get like nearly 250 to 300 grand nearly? And there's talks of him even getting bigger wages. Now, look, if Marcus keeps performing the way he does at the moment, then look, that's fair enough. But I think, we have to be careful in terms of giving these players big contracts, especially I remember when Januzaj renewed, when he obviously came up through the academy. He burst onto the scene that season when the season was very bleak, and he was like a shining light of that season. But then we gave him the number 11 shirt, and after that, then big deal, and everything kind of went downhill. So I'm just hoping myself that Garnacho can stay grounded. And look, if you actually look at the clubs that are linked to them, United's probably the best place right now for him to be nurtured, because if you look at the likes of Chelsea, and other clubs abroad, they're probably going to give him less minutes than he'd probably get at United, especially if you look at the way Chelsea's academy is going as well, with the likes of Joe Lewis Hall and players like that coming through. Like I think United has the more room for opportunity for him to develop.
I think Chelsea's name gets thrown about quite a bit at the moment. You know, they've got that excitement of the new owners coming in and all that honeymoon period, and I think they're going to be linked with everybody that is potentially available. And I think the guys have hit it the nail on the head. You know, he's been exciting. You can see the inexperience in him sometimes. You know, he's making mistakes. And I think, if I'm honest with you, looking at it pragmatically, if he hadn't have maybe scored a goal or two that he did, or maybe assisted a goal or two that he did, then we might not be talking about him in the same vein. We can see the excitement, we can see that he gets everybody on his feet, but he's still got a long way to go. And I think that too many times, more recently, particularly in the last 10 years, we've been burnt too many times. You know, we're offering a lot of contracts, as you say, and we need to get out of that. We need to become a club that's able to deal with all of those things, incomings, outgoings, in the best and most efficient way, really.
And you know what this goes back to? It goes back to like the likes of Ed Woodward and John Murtagh, Richard Arnold, who've probably not run the club as well in the last couple of years. And this is why these contracts are running out. This is why we're in the situation we're in. This because of the ownership and other people who are inept running the football club. And that's why this situation is what it is. And like Robbie says here in the comments, first of all, Robbie, welcome to the channel. First time seeing you in the comments. Hope you're well. And fellow Irishman as well, he says, from County Wicklow. You know, so that's a lovely part of the country. Robbie says, hopefully Ronaldo wasn't in his ear too much. Yeah, like I suppose that also would be a concern for me, considering how Cristiano's kind of fell out with the club in the last couple of months. Like, hopefully Ronaldo isn't telling him to leave as well, because I think that could be something that could hinder it. But Jay, when you look at, like, I suppose our forwards at the minute, and especially we're kind of stacked kind of on the right and the left hand side. Like when you look at Jadon Sancho, for example, he's a player who's had a meteoric rise from Borussia Dortmund, one of the best young prospects in Europe. And look, we know that there's a lot going on and off the pitch, with Jadon. Do you think maybe, when you look at the way Man United have dealt with young players in the last couple of years, that we've kind of almost thrown them in at the deep end, and like we've almost seen players go through like bad patches on the pitch, but also rough mentally as well?
Yeah, I think that's been one of the issues. It's all well and good having young players in your team and giving them an opportunity. You want to see that, and that's one of the foundations of Manchester United. It's what we're about. You know, people talk about United's DNA and everything, and I think that a lot of the time that's just bandied around, that word, without actually meaning too much. I think if you look, the one consistent sort of theme that's been throughout the club's history has been this sort of belief in this opportunity for younger players. Going back to the Busby Babes, to class of 92, to the likes of Marcus and Scott McTominay in the first team now. We've always given them that opportunity. But at times, I think there's been almost a little bit of misusing these youngsters. Yeah. You know, you look at it, it pains me to say it, and I take no pleasure in saying it, but you look at how certain talents are nurtured down the road at rival clubs. You know, Foden, for example, was given cameos for about a year and a half before he was thrown in. And by the time he's in the first team, he's ready. And, you know, he's had all these little cameos and these little 10, 15, 5-minute spells. Then he's been given his opportunity. We've seen it a similar-ish thing at Liverpool with the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Again, he was given a bit more opportunities, but it wasn't sort of thrown in everywhere when you're injured, thrown in different positions, playing under all these different managers. When you look at someone like Marcus Rashford's a good example. Now, Marcus Rashford, you know, he's for me, he's a phenomenal young talent. I know was he 25 now, I think, so he's not as young, but, you know, he's still relatively young. But when he came through, he had that sort of purple patch when he came into the team, 18 years old, 2 goals against Midtjylland, scored in his Premier League debut against Arsenal, scored in the winner in the derby. Everyone's like, this kid is, you know, he's the next great player for Manchester United. And then you see him moved around. He's on the left, he's on the right, he's down the middle, he's sub, he's starting, he's thrown in when he's injured, to the point where, I think, was it against Wolves, he's got a damaged vertebrae and we're still bringing him off the bench. You saw the game against Liverpool where he's hobbling around playing because, you know, we've made all them subs. And it's probably not how to handle a young player. And then we question it when his form disappears or when he's struggling. And I think that with someone like Garnacho, like any of these other youngsters, we've just got to make sure we handle them in the right way. And I think now, finally, for the first time, perhaps since Sir Alex left or retired, we've got a squad where we should be able to handle these youngsters in the right way. We don't need Garnacho to start every game. There was a time when you might have gone, well, we needed Marcus Rashford. We were screwed without him because he was one of the players that was good enough for the first team and we were relying on him. I think Garnacho can be used sparingly. I think we've got other options. You've got Anthony, you've got Marcus, you've got Martial, you've got Jadon Sancho. So yes, you can give Garnacho opportunities if we're going to talk about him, but you don't have to throw him in constantly. Look at someone like Zidane Iqbal, I'm a big fan of. You don't have to throw him in midfield for the next 20 games. You can give him a cameo here and there. You give him 5 minutes, maybe he goes out alone or whatever. But I think we can nurture these talents in the right way and make sure that, in 2-3 years' time, they're ready to play for Manchester United. Another one, and I'll just end on this before we move on, is Charlie McNeil. I'm a big Charlie McNeil fan. And I've seen people online, I've seen people in the comments when I've done videos saying, Charlie McNeil should be starting for Manchester United. He's not there yet. I've no doubt he will be. I think he's a fantastic goal scorer, but he's still young. His body's still growing. And I think if you were to start him up front for Manchester United every week, you'd ruin him. I think you give him a bit of time, give him a cameo, let him maybe go out on loan. And then in a season or 2 seasons or even 3 seasons' time, you can have a player there. You remember with Jesse Lingard? I know Jesse Lingard he left under a bit of a cloud, but he was a player who made his debut at 23. And then he played like 5 years as a Manchester United player. Not everyone is ready at 18, 19. They're not. Some players, it takes a little while. Darren Fletcher's case in point where at 20 years old, I remember United fans were giving him pelleters, calling him Fergie's love child. You fast forward a few seasons, he gets suspended for the Champions League final, and people are saying that's why we lost it to Barcelona because there was no Darren Fletcher. I'm not saying that's true.
I think this is emphasised the running of the club, though. Sorry, Jay. I think this has emphasised the running of the club, though. You're absolutely right. Back in the day, Jesse Lingard, very, very good example. He comes in, doesn't have his debut till he's 23, but I think our hand has been forced a little bit, and I think this actually emphasises how much squad depth we've had over the years. It's been run so poorly. We're not investing in the little sort of gems, not necessarily the commercial acquisitions all the time, and therefore we've had to push in Rashford when Martial got an injury. We've had Ronaldo, who's obviously caused problems. We had Cavani, who didn't play for a season because he wasn't happy because Ronaldo come in. So I think I know that's not what you were saying at all, but I think that United's hand has been forced, and I do believe that's because it's just been run so poorly. If we had a few more players that were ready to go, and perhaps these players, Martial in particular this season, obviously very injury prone at the moment, I think it has been a good time for Garnacho to come in. He's done obviously very, very well, but it's just been a bit unfortunate. But you're absolutely right what you said.
And just like Callum as well, like I look at like this situation, I look at you look at the strength and depth we had in previous years. It hasn't been there in certain positions. We've ran Rashford into the ground. We've ran other players into the ground physically and mentally. I think if you look at it now, Callum, we have, I think, a strength and depth there now, and actually a very good coaching staff there now to hopefully nurture these players. And I like the fact that Jay mentioned Charlie McNeil, because I feel like up front, like we have a great inside forwards right now. Like, your Anthony's, your Rashfords, your Garnachos. But at the moment, you're looking at players like Charlie McNeil, and if United don't buy a striker, we're literally like an Anthony Martial injury away from the likes of Charlie McNeil making the matchday squad, when in hindsight, they're probably not ready.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, we're talking a lot about squad depth at the moment, but we have squad depth in terms of the wingers, but we still only have really Anthony Martial as our number 9. We're still struggling for strikers, and hopefully that gets rectified in January, but we are still sort of light in terms of our striker options. And usually in years gone by, the Carabao Cup was sort of the games that you used for the academy players to sort of see what they can do and, see how they can handle Old Trafford and stuff like that. But it's become a bit of a different game now because, we're so many years without a trophy. People are probably thinking the Carabao Cup's such a big opportunity for us. But going back to what Jay said, the big example for me was someone I was really excited about was Anthony Elanga. He was quite an exciting talent who was coming up. And, he was thrown in by... Did he make his debut under Solskjaer or Rangnick? I can't remember now.
He played his debut under Solskjaer. Didn't he think, was it Leicester?
Yeah, so he made it under Solskjaer, but then not long after, Solskjaer sends sacked. Rangnick comes in and throws him in so many different positions. It's hard for him to get a rhythm and to find form. And the problem with that is it's handled so poorly that United's fan base can be very, it can be very unforgiving and quite fickle, I'd want to say, but it can be very unforgiving sometimes, especially online. And you put in a young player in such a dangerous situation, really, in terms of how he performs, because you don't want to have to put him in a firing line to that. You want him to be able to perform freely and not have to worry about any things mentally. You just want to be, he's a young lad. So I hope that we learn from that mistake, really, because if Garnacho comes in and does end up having to play every week and filling in for these players because of injuries and so forth, we could end up having another issue with Garnacho in 2-3 years' time. So, I mean, in terms of the game tomorrow, I think we'll see Garnacho, but I hope he's not being on the drink after Argentina won the World Cup on Sunday. But I wouldn't blame him, to be fair. But with the World Cup, I am quite I'm quite curious at who's even going to play tomorrow, because there will be a little bit of a hangover from the World Cup. I think there'll be a few players who are quite tired, especially the ones that made it to probably the quarters and the semis at least. Obviously, I know Martinez and Varane won't be available tomorrow. I'd be very surprised if Varane is as well, to be fair. But there could be a little bit of a makeshift lineup anyway tomorrow, because I think there'll be a few players who just maybe need those extra couple of days to just get back to sort of getting their head back into club level, I guess. So it'll be a bit of an interesting match, I think, tomorrow. And I think these kind of games will still be the case for the likes of Garnacho to show what he's made of, I suppose.
Yeah, look, it's interesting one, especially look, we're 5 years without a trophy, and I think Ten Hag kind of is between a rock and a hard place tomorrow, because we're 5 years without a trophy. And if you look the way Burnley are actually playing, one that people will dismiss them and say it's only Burnley, but they're actually playing unreal in the Championship. Company has actually taken the stereotype of Burnley only play Route 1 football away. He's actually has Burnley playing football this season. I've watched a couple of games of them this season, because they have a couple of Irish internationals playing for him. So I watched the likes of Josh Cullen and that playing for him, and he hasn't played more on the front foot than previous years. And Mark, I'd kind of play devil's advocate with this, and I'm not trying to throw a pun there, but would you not think the players who played in the World Cup would actually be more sharp and match fit than some of the players who've had the 6 weeks off? Really and truly, in hindsight.
Yeah, I think obviously this is a very peculiar year, isn't it, where we're playing it in the winter, and he stopped a few weeks before, and obviously almost only a week has gone, and we'll be starting the games up again. So I think it will be very different. I think ultimately the coaches and Erik ten Hag will be able to see the fitness, see the sharpness, and be able to make their judgment at that point. But I think obviously with everyone that's available, to Heaton, Dubravka, could be any one of those. Wan-Bissaka, Williams, Maguire, Bennett obviously coming through, Lindelof, Shaw, Malacia, any one of those, probably Maguire, obviously Lindelof at the back. You've got various options. I think it's going to be a tough game. You're absolutely right. Their form at the moment has been very, very good. Scoring a number of goals, and unfortunately Carrick the other week wasn't able to overturn them. Doing well up until the 1-0 up, and then conceded 60th minute, wasn't it? So a bit unfortunate, but no, they're playing good football. They're top of the league, and no matter how much we can sit here and criticize the absolute gulf in ability, that it is between jumping up from the Championship. It's a very, very competitive league, and they're sitting at the top very pretty. Only lost 2 games and are playing much better football. So, a lot of these players obviously weren't even in the World Cup, and therefore they're probably going to be doing their routines, their training, and probably going to be match fit. So who knows? But I think it's a very different year this year, and I think that most of the players will come back and be ready to go and should be relatively match fit.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree on that. And look, I do think this is a massive kind of opportunity for us to get that first trophy. Jade, do you know when we went in 2006, we would have went through kind of, I suppose, a similar rebuild. We went a couple of years to without a league title. Obviously, we won the FA Cup in between that time. But we were going through a rebuild where we had a couple of young players and had a couple of experienced players. And I suppose the Carling Cup, as it was called then, was kind of, I suppose, that springboard for success for United to win the three-peat, to win the Champions League. And we actually won a couple of Carabao Cups in that time as well. Do you think we could maybe use this as a springboard for success, considering when you actually look at our squad and you break our squad down, there's players in there who've won trophies. You have serial winners like the Casemiros, the Varanes, David De Gea, for example. Marcus has won a few trophies. But then you have the Scott McTominays, so you have the Garnachos, Jadon Sancho's in the squad, who haven't won that many trophies. And, there's, I suppose we could use this as springboard for success, because we've seen Fergie do it. We've seen Jose do it at Chelsea when he was building them up. Do you think we should be taking this as seriously, maybe more seriously, as we haven't taken in previous years?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, sometimes a trophy like that can, like you said, a springboard. It can just give you that little bit of confidence. It's something off the manager's back. He's won something, so there's a little less pressure there. The players have obviously got that in their trophy cabinet. There are a few players who haven't won anything, and you'll be sort of looking to at least win something at Manchester United. Going to Manchester United, a club like Manchester United, not win anything, or being at Manchester United, not win anything, it's almost unheard of. Even post Sir Alex Ferguson, we've had these trophies, haven't we? We've had the FA Cup, the League Cup, and the Europa, and it's only these last sort of 5 years that everything's just sort of ground to a halt. We've had obviously decent league finishes, but in the cups, we've just not really performed. And I remember, I was fortunate enough to interview Sir Alex Ferguson once, and he said that for him,
you've not mentioned that before.
I don't like to talk about it, but I'll break my my promise just for this show. And he said about the 91 Cup Winners' Cup final, because we're obsessed with that on our channel. I asked about it, and he said that he saw that as a springboard to win the league. He said they didn't win the league the next season, obviously Leeds did, but winning that trophy, it was such a momentous occasion, winning a trophy in Europe, that it gave everyone a springboard. Now, the League Cup's not quite as momentous, but it's a trophy. It ends that drought. It gives players who've not won anything their first bit of silverware. And also, if you look at historically, like a lot of clubs who've won the League Cup have done well, haven't they? They've gone on to win the league. City have dominated that competition for so long, and they've used that as a sort of, because it's an early trophy, you win it in February to go on and carry on performing well in the league. So I just think it's one of those where if you don't, for me, the League Cup, it's a bit of a funny one. If you get knocked out, and I'm worried about Burnley, I'm not going to lie to you, I think this could be a real banana skin. I really do. I think they're flying in the Championship. The match fit, we're going to miss. And you've seen, I don't want to be too negative, but you've seen this season when we've rested a few players, we've struggled. Like Sociedad at home was a case in point. I know we were robbed by a poor decision, but he mixed it up a little bit, and you still thought that's a very strong team. And we struggled. Was it Sheriff or Ammonia? Was another game where a terrible team, a team that were shocking, and we struggled for large parts of the game. So I'm a little bit worried, but if we do lose this game, it's one of them where you go, okay, it's only the League Cup. It's not the end of the world. It's, you know what I mean? There's got the FA Cup, you've got the Europa League, and you've got the league to go for in terms of getting top four. But if you win, you think, yeah, you know what? I'll take that. Some of my favourite memories of United fan are winning the League Cup. I know that might sound a bit silly, but they are. Do you know what I mean? 2017, the Zlatan final was great.
Oh, man, that was unbelievable.
Yeah. My first time at Old Trafford that I can remember properly was beating Liverpool in what was then the Rumbelows Cup. So, yeah, it's a weird one, the League Cup. I don't think anyone gets up in the morning and goes, or in the beginning of the season, goes, right, the League Cup, that's our priority. We've got to get that one. But you'd take it, wouldn't you? You'd take winning the League Cup. You'd take having a trophy in February when no one else has.
I definitely take it. If you look, for example, Liverpool and Man City are playing each other on Thursday, which means one of the big boys are going to be out of the competition. So why not? Why not go for it? Because at the end of the day, it's 5 years to a trophy. It instills a winning mentality within the dressing room. And look, it provides us more confidence to go on and win more. And look, if we look at the other cups that we're in at the moment, we're in Europe. We've Barcelona. That's going to be a hard game, especially if Martinez being suspended for the first game. We've Everton in the FA Cup. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of a tough enough team to have. They might have a new manager by then, which means they'd probably be better. Do you know? Lampard will probably be sacked by then. So, it's probably our best chance to win a trophy this season. And, look, if you said to me at the start of the season, Jay, we had a conversation at the start of the season where we were saying, top four is concerned and a trophy would be a bonus. Now we're in a very good space right now, and we're playing way better football, and we're on, an upward trajectory of success, potentially. If we win a League Cup and then we finish, let's say, we get, hypothetically, we get a striker in January and then we finish in the top four, top three. That's a great season considering the shower of shit we watched last year. Do you know what I mean? So I think it is something that we should be taking seriously.
Do you know what? I get all that. And in terms of a first trophy for a lot of the players and a trophy for United in terms of ending a drought, it'd be great. I always have been of the ilk that I just don't like the League Cup. I think especially this year as well. I think it wasn't, in terms of somebody just commented then, I think most of the teams have got 2 games a week now until May. There you go. Yeah, Fred, it was. This is what I mean. We've got 2 games a week now until May. Of all the seasons, I think this could have been a season where we possibly followed a lot of the other countries around Europe and just maybe had one cup competition just to see if it freed up the fixture schedule. It's going to be quite a tough one for the players. I mean, I'm not going to start getting violins out, but it could have just been a bit of a trial period maybe for the FA and the leagues to go, do we really need this second cup competition? Look, I'd love it if United won this cup. It'd be great. Like Jay said then, I mean, February winning a cup, end of February usually is, and winning a cup around then, it sort of just gets the fans a bit happier, a bit more of a positive atmosphere. Could do a lot for the players as well in terms of the rest of the season. I get all that. It's just I've never been a big fan of the cup personally, and I think it could have been an idea to maybe have scrapped it just for this season, just to see how it goes. But look, I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow, obviously, and I'm looking forward to United coming back. But if I was to not win any of the trophies this season, it would have been the Carabao Cup that I'd have happily brushed aside, to be honest.
Yeah, I get that sentiment. And look, to be fair, I'm just desperate for us to win something because, like, at the end of the day, I know people say
we won the World Cup the other day.
Sorry?
We won the World Cup with Martinez the other day. And we won the Bangkok Cup the other month as well. So,
hey, look,
put your
this is
Bangkok
why I think
medals on the table, right?
Like, this is why, like, is Messi really to go because he hasn't won the Bangkok Century Cup yet? Like, come on.
Well,
he hasn't completed the full set yet, like, do you know? I'm only joking now before people take me out of context and clip that shit up.
No, you're not joking. You're being serious.
Harry Maguire prediction earlier on.
We'll take what we can get at the minute, right?
Yeah, we can. Exactly. In all seriousness, I think we kind of have to take what we get because, like I said before, that look, no team has a God-given right to win a trophy, which is true. You have to win on merit, and you have to win on hard work, and you have to be the best team. But at the end of the day, let's not beat around the bush. We're Manchester United. We're the biggest club in the world. We should be competing for every single trophy out there, regardless if it's the Carabao Cup, Europa League, Europa Conference League, Champions League, whatever it may be, whatever competition we in, we should be in there and attempting to win the thing. Because
I do agree with you, Keane. I wanted to come in and say that as well. It's such an anomaly of a season. It's very difficult to weigh up the pros and cons and, the amount of games we got to play and as everyone's alluded to. But look, we're a long way from it. But ultimately, we need to get back to the point where we're in every competition until the last few stages. And I think there is an opportunity. There's not many strong teams left in it. As you said, Liverpool play City. It could be an opportunity. And if it means that we sorry?
Chelsea are gone out of it as well. So
yeah, exactly. And if it means that, maybe we're not folks, if we get knocked out Europa, it's quite likely against Barca. I'm ready for that game. I want to play the best teams and I do think we can beat them. But there's a possibility. And then you've got other teams, obviously, after that. It's a really long road to the very end. And I totally take what Callum's saying there. You're absolutely right. But I don't know how to weigh up the options, as I say, this season. I think that, it's going to be a tough game, but it's one that I feel like we should win. I feel like we should get to the final at least. I really do.
Don't let my misery bring you down. It's just
I won't, bro. I won't.
Don't let that happen.
Like Spurs, Chelsea, and potentially one of Liverpool or City are going to be gone out of it. Like, at the end of the day, we should be at least in the final. So on merit, we should be at least there in the final. Like, if you look at all the teams left now, we should be.
The thing is with United, and this has been the case since Fergie retired, on our day, we can beat anyone.
Yeah. We
can. Like, we're not a team that we've been beaten by everyone, but we've beaten Liverpool, City, all the biggest teams. The teams that have won the league, we've beaten. Do you know what I mean? We can beat a team in one-off games or in cup competitions. The problem we've had is just sustaining it over a long period of time. And when we get one or two injuries, especially with some of the squads we've had, then you start getting into players that, no disrespect to them, but had no business playing for Manchester United Football Club. But I think, if we do end up like Marc was saying, and Callum touched on, if we get to the latter stages or whatever, or, I'd fancy us if we said, you know what, this is a trophy we can win. Let's put a strong team out. Look at the players we've got. We've got a mint starting 11. The issue is, like has been mentioned, it's that balance and it's that decision. Jose Mourinho, when we won it in 2017, he prioritised it. If you remember, we played City at Old Trafford. Pep Guardiola put half his reserves out. Jose didn't. He put his strongest team out. And he was right to do that because we won it. He did the same with the Europa League. He gave up on the league in January. He said it. He said, I'm going to, not forget that. We're going for the Europa. We rode our luck a little bit, especially against Celta Vigo, but we won it. Now, it's up to Erik Ten Hag what he wants to do. He might decide that he hasn't got a squad to do that, and that he has to he hasn't got the squad to go for it on every competition. He has to prioritise it like Josie did. Or he might go, you know what, I think I've got a squad where we can fight on 4 fronts. But I feel like, you know what, if United were to get to a position where we were playing City in the semis or whatever, then there's no reason to think that if we put a strong team out, we couldn't win this competition. You know, it's not. It's a winnable competition. I actually think, ironically, I know this sounds daft, this is the hard one because you're missing so many players.
Yeah. Think about it, you were missing like the likes of Martinez, Rafael Varane tomorrow night. This could it is a very tough game, especially look, Vincent Kompany as well, being a former City player, he's going to want to come to Old Trafford and get his scalp. Especially being a young, promising manager himself, he'll definitely want to win. But on that, we've discussed the Carabao Cup and these kind of, I suppose in essence, a big-ish game considering where we are in our rebuild. But it's coming to my favorite part of the show, which is team start 11 predictions, score predictions. So I'm going to go to each member of the panel to give their predicted 11 tomorrow, and also we'll go with score prediction as well for the end. I'm going to start from bottom to top. So Mr. Marc, I know you're always wanting to give the prediction, and I know there might be a certain man in your midfield that you do rep. Give me your 1 to 11, pal.
Yeah, I do rep him a lot, but I'm going to save myself the embarrassment today because I know that you'll be on at me after. Donny van der Beek, if anyone's wondering. Yeah, I think David De Gea probably will start. I can't see, he's going to. I think what we've seen over the course of the year since Ten Hag has come in, he's always playing a very, very strong team. I don't know whether that's because he finds certain players unreliable, but I think he will go with his strongest 11, to be honest with you. And I think, David De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire and Lindelof, and I think probably Shaw over Malacia. In midfield, probably do 4-2-3-1 as he normally does. I think you're probably likely to see Eriksen in there. Casemiro, obviously come back recently as well. I would hope that you'd be there, but we'll have to wait and see. And possibly Fred as well. Fernandes even, sorry. Van der Beek, I'm not even going to put in there. Otherwise, you take the piss out of me, but it's true. And then front three, I think you're probably likely to see Anthony, Rashford, Martial, Garnacho could start. Do you know what I mean? It's this toss-up for the last 4. I don't think Pellistri has got a chance, or Elanga. So, I think it's going to be a very strong team. I think you'll want to go in and win it. I really do. I think we've seen that amount of times we're expecting a bit of rotation earlier in the season. He's just not done that. And I think that'll be the same again. I think if your best players are fit, you play them.
Are you on that similar token, Callum? Are you predicting a similar team than Marc?
Yeah, in terms of that, I'd probably go with it fairly similar to that. I actually think Van der Beek might play, but I think Bruno will play as well. I think it'll be something. I reckon we'll probably see De Gea in goal. I reckon he probably will play Wan-Bissaka as well. It'll be a Lindelof, Maguire at the back. I actually think he'll play Malacia and not Shaw. I think in midfield it'll be like McTominay, Van der Beek, and Bruno. And then the front three will probably be something like Garnacho, Elanga, and Martial. It's proper up in the air. I think I genuinely don't think anyone can kind of predict the starting 11 because it's just been such a bit of an anomaly of a season. And when the players came back and what the mental state was like, it was just all a bit of a weird one, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised with any team selection tomorrow night, whether Pellistri starts, whether Garnacho does, whether the return of Wan-Bissaka as well. I genuinely think I wouldn't be surprised at any of it, to be honest.
Jay, I suppose, without being, as the lad said, it's unpredictable. What would you go with? Like with the players that are available, what would you like to see?
Well, what I would go with, I think you've seen that Bruno, Casemiro, and Anthony, and also Marcus were in training. So I'd play them all. I can't remember who it was who said it earlier, that the players who've been playing in the World Cup, were probably fitter than the ones that played in Cadiz and Real Betis, which were 2 games of just awful quality from both sides, if I'm being brutally honest, especially the Real Betis game. And no disrespect to some of the younger players, because I know it's not easy when you're coming into the first team Manchester United, even a friendly, but it wasn't a great game by any sense of the stretch of the imagination. So if it was up to me, and I think the players are training, they've played a lot of games over the World Cup, but not a ridiculous amount, other than the likes of Varane and probably mainly Varane, because Martinez didn't play in the final. He was literally knackered, wasn't it? I think it wasn't an injury; it was fatigue by the end of that game. Then I think if they're in training, I'd pick him. I'd play him because I know I sound negative here and I sound like I'm being a little bit pessimistic, but I think Burnley's a really tough game. I just do. I just think this is a team that's been playing well, been playing regularly, that are playing under Vincent Kompany. He'll have a point to prove because he's a City legend and he'd love to come to Old Trafford and get a result. And we've been here before where we've taken games against Championship teams for granted. Under Van Gaal it was Middlesbrough, under Jose it was Derby, and we've come unstuck. Do you know what I mean? And we've put a team out and you think, oh, we'll get away with that, and then we haven't. And I think for this one, I would, if you've got those players and they've been in training, I'd pick them. So the likes of Marcus, Ericsson, Bruno, Casemiro, I'd put them in. I would. I'd have, of the ones that are probably not, regulars. I think you'd have to go with Lindelof and Maguire because Varane's not fit and Martinez is probably, he's still at a party somewhere, and he's not going to be in any state to play football anytime soon, and rightly so. But I think Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof, that he's fine against Burnley. I think that, Shaw's fit. I actually think he'll go with Malacia myself at right back. I don't think he likes Wan-Bissaka.
My starting 11 prediction. I just don't think Ten Hag fancies Wan-Bissaka at all.
I put him in my one today because we shot it early this morning and I didn't know what the situation was. But I've seen that Malacia's in training. I just think he'd prefer to play Malacia. I know he's a left back, but he's played him at right back before over Wan-Bissaka. I don't think I agree with what you're saying, Keane. For whatever reason, I just don't think he fancies Wan-Bissaka at all.
I think he thinks, if you look at it pound for pound, I think Malacia is probably better on the ball than Wan-Bissaka from that point of view. And I think Ten Hag likes having technically sound players in his team. So, my 11 prediction is De Gea in goal, Malacia right back, Maguire, Lindelof centre half, Shaw left back. I actually think Casemiro doesn't start. I have a feeling he mightn't start. I'd love him to start, but I don't think he will. I'm going to go Casemiro. McTominay, Ericsson, Bruno. I think that'll be the midfield. I just don't see a midfield where you can't play Bruno Fernandes because if you put Donny van de Beek in, where it's not going to create, we're not. He's going to be a bystander on the pitch.
Are you a fan of Donny, Marc? Are you a fan of his?
When he came in, I was very, very excited about him, and I think that technically he's a very, very good player, and I think obviously go anywhere else be phenomenal. He just hasn't done it in the Premier League, so I have to stick to my guns. But he has been poor. I think he does a lot more off the ball than people give him credit for. But fundamentally, the numbers aren't good enough. He's not done enough. So as I say, I have to defend him a bit, but only for my own pride.
Fair enough.
Just unfortunate.
Yeah. I just wondered because I know you picked them there seems to be a little bit of a joke going on with you, so I didn't know if there was a thing going on there.
Me and Marc are at loggerheads all season over Donny van de Beek, and to be fair, I actually rated Donny van de Beek for a long time. But the thing that gets me at Van de Beek, and Marc knows this, the fact that Solskjaer, Carrick, Rangnick, and now the manager who made him, Ten Hag, hasn't played him. There has to be something fundamentally wrong there. Is he doing well in training? If you look, for example, in 2020-21 season, McTominay and Fred were stinking it up for a large majority of that season, and Donny van de Beek was still on the bench. Do you know what I mean? It's
a shame. It's a shame he got injured at Everton when he went on his loan because he missed half them games, didn't he? And for me, that was his last chance. Yeah. I think if he'd have played all them games and done something, he'd have had a chance.
It's not like I don't disagree with you, Keane. As I say, it's purely pride now, mate. And listen, I know that he's a great footballer. He's obviously lacking massive confidence. His technical ability, his awareness of creating spaces for the rest of the team's good. And he would do that in a different league. It's just unfortunate.
Bundesliga, Marc, he'd be unreal in the Bundesliga. The amount of space they have in that league, he would be unbelievable. And he looked like that player who got nominated for Ballon d'Or in the Bundesliga. He really would, in terms of quality. And the last three forwards in my team as well, it'll be Anthony right wing, Martial up front, and Rashford on left. That's what I think he'll go with. I think he'll have to go strong up front. Before we get score predictions off the lads, I'm just going to get this final comment. Is there a chance we get Laird back this season? Well, look, if Wan-Bissaka goes, Laird has done well in the Championship, but it's a weird one because I'd like to see him maybe stay there and continue developing more. If he comes back to us and barely plays behind Dalot, it could stunt his development. So personally, I might actually, maybe keep Williams and then just, if Wan-Bissaka's leaving, maybe as last resort use Williams at right back as a backup option. But I'd keep Laird there for 6 months because I think he may be a better option next season to challenge Dalot, because I think he's a top quality right back. And then Robbie just agrees when the comments that it's the same at Everton as well, in terms of Donny van de Beek obviously struggling. But look, we'll start from the top to bottom in score predictions. Jay, how are you feeling? How are things going down tomorrow?
On Stretford Paddock earlier, I said I could actually see us losing this one.
Oh no, you done this a few weeks ago.
I know I've been like Mr. Negative about this, and people are probably in the comments going, "This guy, man, Burnley aren't that fucking good. What's the matter with you?" Do you know what I mean? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll cover my bets on this channel. I'll say we'll win. We'll win 1-0. There you go, and I'll clip up whatever.
Win.
Callum, what are you going with?
I still think we'll win. I think people need to be aware that it's a bit of a different Burnley, though. It's not the sort of Sean Dyche Brexit style football that everyone loves to call it. It's definitely not like that anymore. Vincent Kompany has come in and done really good things for them. So I think people need to give Burnley that little bit of credit. But ultimately, Man United should be beating Burnley. So I'll go 2-0 United.
Mark?
Yeah, unfortunately, saying the same thing. I think it's certainly a team that is not going to be easy. It's not going to be a rollover. Lots of players, as we've already mentioned many times, coming back. We're not really sure what kind of cohesiveness we're going to see. But we should be winning these games. And I expect Ten Hag to not take them lightly. So, yeah, I was going to say 2-0, but I might even go 2-1. I think we might be a little bit rusty at the back.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one. There's actually no extra time if we draw tomorrow. So I'm actually going to go 1-1. I think we're going to be winning 1-0 and then Burnley will fucking get a set piece or something like that. Something jammy. So I'm going to go 1-1. Actually go United to win on pens finally. We'll finally win a penalty shootout after about 43 years. We'll finally win a penalty shootout. And hopefully Bruno scores the winning one. That'll just, I love to boil a bit of piss on Twitter. So that'll be a great one. But yeah, look, we've all gone United wins and hopefully it is the case. We do go out and progress in the competition, because I think it's a massive opportunity for us to be successful. And then John also says as well, 3-1 United, Martial will score. We have to get on that and Paddy Power tomorrow for first goal score. And Andrew says 2-1 as well. And it looks like everyone's slightly confident we'll get the win, so hopefully that's the case. And just go round table just before we end the stream there. Jay and Callum, do you have anything coming up on the paddock very soon?
Callum, when you back on? Not had John for a few weeks, man. When you coming back on?
Whenever you invite me, I'll come on. I'll come on whenever you ask me to, mate.
Right, there you go. The next Paddock podcast, I think, is on the 27th, I think. Is it not the 27th? 28th, because we're off for Christmas. The 28th, Callum's coming back on.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. You got that. There's an exclusive.
Absolutely. And Mark, looks like we've a new show coming out as well in the new year as well.
Yeah, match reactions will be coming back to the weekly armchair. So going to be doing that again. Callum, I'll be in touch, brother, to get you on as much as possible. And Jay, of course. But yeah, looking forward to getting that back up running.
Can I just say as well, sorry, Keane, I forgot to mention, we've got an event in Dublin on the 30th. A live event, Dublin on the 30th. Brian McClare's joining us. So if anyone can get down to Dublin on the 30th, yeah, it's going to be me, McCullough, Steve Howson and Joe Smith and Brian McClare doing like a live podcast. So yeah, try and get down if you can. Appreciate it.
It's only 2 hours away from me. I'll be there. The 30th
will be there now, yeah.
Yeah, good lad. Looking forward to catching up with you.
Yeah, I'll be there on the 30th, definitely. And look, any Irish, I know we've got a few Irish viewers in here as well. So look, if any of you are around on the 30th, do go to the Stretford Paddock podcast there. And also, like, look, you can catch up there as well. But look, thanks very much everyone for watching today. Hope you all have a good Christmas as well. And hopefully United give us an early Christmas present tomorrow night. But until then, guys, like, share and subscribe. And we see you later on in the week.